Please excuse me if I'm a bit nasally today, bit bunged up, a bit of the old man flu, bit of a lurgy today. I want to discuss a few things actually. Konstantinos Mavropanos, Emerson, Carlos Soler, Lucas Paquetá. Good news for two, bad news for two others. And a couple of my observations from yesterday's game and what it probably means going forward for Julen Lopetegui, who made some really interesting comments actually about what he wanted to see from his team, and it sort of inadvertently gave away the values that he's going to sort of be looking for most in what's going to be a must-win game against Ipswich. But I do feel that draw has given him a bit of breathing space. He's not going to. That'll be on poor old Gary O'Neill at the moment. He's not going to have loads and loads and loads of speculation about his job for the next week, but I think he's given an indication as to what qualities he's going to be looking for, and I think maybe a little insight into what his team might be. Just so as you know, we got some dog news as well. We got some dogging news, which I'll be sharing with you over the next couple of days. We got some pretty damn good news. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, as you know, we used to do dog walking videos and everything. So yeah, lost my dogs at the start of the year. So the puppy has been born. We're calling him Zippy, and I've got some quite nice news to share with you actually. But we'll do that over the next couple of days. Before I get into my Mavropanos and Lucas Paquetá rant, if you want, we need your help, basically. We want you to send in some fan cams. What we're trying to do is trying to build up a little core group, a little crew, if you like, of people that are going to send us in videos on a regular basis. Let us know what you like or what you didn't like about a game, and we'll publish them on this channel and on the main Hammers Chat channel. And as a thank you, we're going to give sort of rewards, a bit like Greg's card, but better, I guess. I don't know. There's not a lot better than a caramel donut, is there? But so we're not going to give you one of those. But what we will be giving you is basically like autographed pictures of players. If you're really into it, then you know you keep on sending in videos all the time, and you can win yourself. Well, not win yourself. You can earn yourself shirts, merch from our club shop, mugs, all that type of thing. We want to get you guys involved. There's a link in the description below with real details how you can send us your clips. The link is for Patreon, but don't worry, you're not going to have to sign up for Patreon by doing it. It's just the easiest way where we can detail everything. We want you to pick up your mobile phone, your smartphone, film yourself, and then give us your opinions. Anyway, links in the description below. Give that a little look whenever you are ready. Right, well, I'll tell you what I was very impressed at. I say very, but let's rewind that back a bit. I was mildly impressed with a couple of things yesterday, but I thought there was a couple of them which were quite insightful. Now, Konstantinos Mavropanos, it's the rage, isn't it? I guess that the last couple of seasons have been the rage of playing centre-backs all across the back four, full-backs. It's funny. It's funny how trends and fashions in football develop. And, listen, whoever was first responsible for it, I couldn't tell you whether it's Pep Guardiola or anyone else. I know Arsenal are doing it at the moment as well. I'm sure it's been done years and years ago, but you almost felt it was as a necessity. You know, basically the full-back was injured, so we'll stick a centre-back in there, and then sometimes they can do a job. But actually, Thomas Repka was originally, for West Ham, he was a centre-back for us, but he ended up being a right-back. But he definitely signed him from Fiorentina. He was definitely a central defender. Turned out he could play all right at right-back as well when he wasn't hacking people down. Mavropanos, it felt significant. And it felt like it was probably bad news for Emerson. I certainly do think that Lopetegui will be looking at what Mavropanos could do rather than what he couldn't do after yesterday's game. He was tidy enough with his passing. His passing was okay, there's that word again. But defensively, he was very good. He was it's getting down with, you shall not pass. That's what he was giving it yesterday. I think he won pretty much everything. Headers, tackles, interceptions, all of that, he looked really good. Moreover, what he did was he gave us another big Chunkenstein lump in the box, both defensively and when we were attacking as well. I think, look, even if it was me, I would find the temptation too great to resist. And there's another reason, another factor that goes into that. If you look, Ipswich you would assume, be the easiest game of the season, right? But it is still a must-win game. Whilst I don't feel that there's going to be pressure, there's not going to be lots of talk this week about Lopetegui's job, particularly not from the outside media, who had a bit of a field day with it. as I say, the story's probably Gary O'Neill. But it's still a must-win game against Ipswich. It really is. He can't afford to lose that. So ordinarily, would you go and put, a big steamboat Willie centre-back at full-back for a game like that? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. But I would be tempted, and I think he will be too. And there's something else that plays into this. And it's something I said the first time I saw Aaron Wan-Bissaka get shifted over to left-back and play at left-back for West Ham. I said, hold on, he looks like he's the best right-back and the best left-back at the club. And it was a throwaway line at the time. I'm not sure how much I meant it. It just sort of sounded like the right thing to say at the time. But the more I look at it, the more I think, actually, he's given Emerson a bit of a problem, because you would expect him to be able to do a job, to go over to that left flank and make it better, more solid defensively. You would expect Aaron Wan-Bissaka to be a better defender than Emerson. I think where it's thrown up a problem is that he looked to be better going forward than Emerson, who was, I think, in that game against Brentford, got into good positions, but he didn't really do anything. There was nothing exceptional about his final third play. Whereas I thought Wan-Bissaka, he drastically improved that left flank. And he looked to be a handful. He really did. He looked to be a handful for that Brentford defence. So with that in mind, even without the Mavropanos situation, I think I'd be tempted anyway. The one thing that would probably make me not want to do it would be Soufal playing at right back, because he's not been great. I think if you've got the option now and you're thinking, well, hold on a second, I can put this guy Mavropanos in at right back. He's going to give it the you shall not pass. He's going to go full Gandalf there. And he's going to offer me something at set pieces both ends of the pitch. I will probably accept what I'm going to lose in terms of offensive. I should say I thought his passing was all right. And at the one time he tried to play the ball forward, he did it well. It was a successful pass. I remember looking at it thinking, I'm not sure Soufal makes that pass. Now, listen, I'm not going to pretend for a moment that that Mavropanos is going to turn himself into Pirlo. That's not what I'm saying. He's not going to suddenly have a brilliant range of passing there, but it was okay. And I think if you can, in that position, if you can give defensive excellence. Now, I know some people may laugh because of how Mavropanos has played this season, but that was a centre-back. If he can just be solid as a rock at full-back and do okay going forward, you sort of look at it as a safe pair of hands. It allows you to play Wan-Bissaka on that left-hand side. I'd be tempted. And in fact, this is where Paqueta comes into the conversation here. Start of last season, some of the interchange, some of the play between Emerson and Paqueta was outstanding. They really understood each other's game. We know Emerson plays for Italy, but he's Brazilian, born and raised in Brazil. They played together at Olympique Lyonnais. It was clear understanding that there was a kindred spirit there. You got the impression that those two could play 1-2s in a darkened room with the lights. Well, darkened room with the lights off. If the room's darkened, it's got the bloody lights off. You know what I'm saying. I thought, yeah, okay, really good. And I totally understood why he was often deployed over there. It sort of worked. But it does seem a case of no Paqueta, no party for Emerson. He doesn't look anything like the player that he did last season. We did our player ratings. Look, forget from December onwards last season, because West Ham were crap. But when West Ham were good, we were looking at, often we'd do our player ratings over on Patreon. We'd do 7, 8 out of 10s often, Emerson. Well, wouldn't be unrealistic. He's nowhere near an 8 out of 10 now. Nowhere near, and he doesn't look close to getting one. I would suggest he's been one of West Ham's poorest performers. So the temptation must be there to drop him, because there's no way that Paqueta is going to be started on the left. Now, there were times during Brentford when it happened. You saw a few little interchanges, and they're clearly still looking for each other, but it's not there. It's not ticking. It's not firing on all cylinders. It's really stuttering at best. If you're polite, it's stuttering. I would go as far as to say myself, I'd say it's just not working. And then you come to Paqueta. Paqueta, he just looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. So the other day, West Ham were linked with a player. I can't even remember the geezer's name. Paraguayan player. Plays for Brighton. Well, I say plays for Brighton. He doesn't play for him too much. And West Ham were linked with him with a summer move. And ordinarily, I wouldn't have paid too much attention to transfer speculation at this time of year. And I'm not suggesting the transfer rumour's true. But it made me go and have a little look at him. And he was playing 1-2s. His head was up. He was looking for through balls. He was... Basically, he looked a little bit like Paqueta looked when Paqueta joined. And it was just watching this guy. It made me think, you know, how far Paqueta has fallen. And it's not great. It's not great. And he does look like... He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And understandably so. He is not the same player. He's not that same live wire who's a second ahead of everybody else, and he's thinking can see. I guess he can still see passes that nobody else can see and all that, but he's not executing them well. They're not as frequent. The little sparks of the mind are not as frequent as they were. And he looks old before his time, actually, and I think we can all understand why. To have that level of concern hanging over you, and you've only got to think last week there was his old Uncle Bruno was named in a number of stories as part of the betting investigation. Basically, it transpired that allegedly he had paid money to somebody based on winnings that he'd made off of Paqueta getting his yellow cards. I can't be asked to go into the details now, and I probably wouldn't be able to remember them properly anyway, but it wasn't good. It just felt like another layer of evidence to be piled upon Paqueta, which made me far less convinced that he'd be able to get acquitted of these charges, basically. So anyway, he's playing like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, and then Carlos Soler came on. Now, Carlos Soler came on at half-time, so he wasn't a replacement for Paqueta, who went off on 74 minutes or something like that. But whilst I thought he was okay, I saw enough there to think, okay, this might be an option for Lopetegui. Now, there is obviously, you can play Paqueta and Soler in the same team, and you know, I would have done so for this game anyway. Actually, truth be known, when I did my not my predicted 11, but my chosen 11 for that Brentford game, I would have picked both of them. However, the more I see Paqueta, the more it's just a shame. It's just a shame. The less convinced I become with him. But Soler, I thought Soler was purchased, loaned, whatever the deal was, as an emergency break glass security emergency measure for if the worst happened to Lucas Paqueta. And I still think that's the case. However, in the meantime, we hope the worst doesn't happen, but in the meantime, can he do a job for West Ham? You'd certainly hope so. He looked bright enough. I thought his passing, I didn't. If he put a pass wrong, I don't remember seeing it. He seemed to make all of his passes, which I thought was really, really good. He showed enough. He said there was a couple of. I thought firstly there was that turn, that spin he did away from the defender. He was over on the left hand side. Really good footwork, really good technique. Plays with his head up. And then there was that bit where he skipped past the challenge and then played the ball to Somerville. That, I guess, would have been counted as a key pass in that sense. It was good. He looked lively. Not amazing, but if he'd have played all game like that, you'd be looking at a 7 out of 10 performance. And that's an improvement. And I think for that reason, you're going to have a temptation there from Lopetegui to play him. So I just looked at it, as I say, looking at the takeaways from that game, and I was West Ham were not brilliant, and I kept on saying the word okay, and I guess I'll continue to say it, but okay was an improvement. That was something. That was a bit of stability, and we desperately need stability. We'll get to the rest in another video because I've been waffling on 15 odd minutes here anyway. But yeah, just really interesting to see what happens there. We would not be surprised at all if in the match against Ipswich you're going to see Mavropanos and you're going to see Soler starting. He alluded to that. His comments about fight and determination and teamwork. There was a lot of that type of stuff And I think he'd have been pleased, by the way, with what he saw. He needs to start creating a cohesion in the back line. I was pleased with Todibo. I did say that yesterday. I was quite pleased with what I saw there. I thought he had a good game, actually, which is really good. So I think he probably would have seen that fight and that commitment from Todibo. And Todibo himself said, was quite nice to hear, actually, as we need some good news stories coming out of him. And it was Todibo saying he was, almost he said he was pleased because that he was allowed time to get his fitness up so as he could play. So I thought, OK, that's good. So not only was it Lopetegui saying he's not fit and he's not ready for the Premier League yet, to hear Todibo saying that, I think was really good. So, yeah, I mean, just looking at it now, I think there was a case of, is it going to be Todibo or Mavropanos? And I think, quite possibly for the next game, maybe in a situation, quite possibly, where it'll be Todibo and Mavropanos.